Microeconomics is the study of individual economic behavior, focusing on how households, individuals, and firms make decisions that impact the overall economy. This presentation will dive into the key principles and concepts that govern microeconomic decision-making, from supply and demand to market structures and consumer behavior. Understanding microeconomics is crucial for making informed decisions, whether you're an individual consumer, a business owner, or a policymaker. The visual aids on this slide provide a high-level overview of the topics we'll be covering, including the use of charts and graphs to illustrate microeconomic principles. Throughout the presentation, we'll explore real-world examples and case studies to bring these concepts to life and demonstrate their practical applications. Scarcity is the fundamental economic problem. There are limited resources to meet our unlimited wants and needs when we make a choice. The opportunity cost is the next best alternative that we give up. The economic problem is how to best allocate our scarce resources to produce the goods and services that satisfy our wants and needs. Individuals, firms, and societies must make trade-offs and sacrifices to balance competing needs and wants given our limited resources. Demand and supply are the fundamental economic concepts that determine the price and quantity of goods and services in a market. Demand refers to the willingness and ability of consumers to purchase a product. Supply represents the producer's willingness and ability to offer that product for sale. At the point where demand and supply intersect, the market reaches equilibrium, establishing the price and quantity exchange. This slide introduces the key elements of demand, supply, and equilibrium that will be explored in more depth in the following sections. Elasticity is a measure of how responsive demand or supply is to changes in factors like price. Demand elasticity looks at how much quantity demanded changes when price changes. Supply elasticity shows how much quantity supplied changes with price shifts. Elastic demand and supply have high elasticity values. Quantity is very responsive to price changes. Inelastic demand and supply have low elasticity. Quantity is less sensitive to price changes. The image on this slide provides a visual representation of these elasticity concepts. It shows the demand and supply curves, along with numerical examples of demand and supply elasticity values. Consumers are assumed to make rational decisions to maximize their overall satisfaction or utility. The additional satisfaction gained from each additional unit of a good declines as consumption increases. Consumers must make trade-offs and allocate their limited income across different goods and services. Indifference curves represent combinations of goods that provide the same overall level of satisfaction. Fixed costs are expenses that do not change with the level of output, such as rent and equipment. Variable costs are costs that increase as production rises, like labor and raw materials. Total costs are the sum of fixed and variable costs, and they determine the firm's supply decisions. The combination of fixed and variable costs shapes the firm's supply curve. Understanding production costs is crucial for a firm to make informed supply decisions. In a perfectly competitive market, firms are price takers. They have no control over the market price, which is set by the interaction of supply and demand. The goal for firms in perfect competition is to maximize profits by producing the quantity where marginal revenue, the market price, equals marginal cost. This is the most efficient production level. With free entry and exit, new firms can easily join the market, driving prices down to the point where firms earn zero economic profit in the long run. Monopolies have significant market power, allowing them to set prices much higher than the competitive level. This leads to reduced output, higher prices, and a deadweight loss to society, the difference between maximum potential surplus and actual surplus under monopoly conditions. Monopolies are considered economically inefficient as they fail to maximize social welfare, prioritizing their own profits over consumer and societal interests. The diagram on the right illustrates this concept, showing how monopoly power results in a deadweight loss compared to a competitive market. Oligopolies are characterized by a small number of large, dominant firms that collectively control a significant portion of the market. These firms must carefully consider the actions and reactions of their competitors when making business decisions. The pricing and output decisions of one firm can have significant impacts on the other firms, leading to strategic pricing and competition. This interdependence between firms in an oligopoly is a key characteristic that shapes their behavior and decision-making. Product differentiation is a key characteristic of monopolistic competition, where firms create slightly different versions of a product to appeal to diverse customer preferences. Customers often develop loyalty to particular brands, which gives each firm a less than perfectly elastic demand curve. Despite product differentiation, the barriers to entry in a monopolistically competitive market are relatively low, allowing new firms to easily enter. Firms demand inputs like labor, capital, and land based on the prices and availability in factor markets. Firms want to maximize the marginal revenue product of each input, that is, the extra revenue generated by using one more unit of that input. Firms can substitute between different inputs depending on their relative prices and how well they fit the production process. The ultimate goal is to maximize profits by optimizing the mix and quantity of inputs used in production. And the demand for labor is determined by the principle of marginal revenue product, or MRP. Firms hire workers up to the point where the extra revenue generated by the last worker equals the cost of that worker's wages. There are several key factors that affect labor demand. Productivity of labor: higher worker productivity increases the MRP, raising labor demand. Output price: higher prices for the firm's products increase MRP and labor demand. Technology: technological advances that enhance worker efficiency raise MRP and labor demand. Wages are influenced by the supply and demand for labor, as well as worker productivity, skill, and bargaining power. Factors like globalization, technological change, and changes in labor market policies have contributed to growing income inequality in many countries. Minimum wage laws aim to ensure a basic standard of living, but they can also lead to job losses and reduced employment. The government plays a vital role in shaping the microeconomic landscape through various policies and interventions. Governments can promote competition, address market failures, and influence consumer and producer behavior to achieve societal goals. Key areas of government involvement include antitrust regulation, taxation, subsidies, price controls, and the provision of public goods. By understanding and managing these policy levers, policymakers can steer the economy towards desired outcomes. It's important for the audience to understand how the government's role in microeconomics can impact businesses, consumers, and the overall economy. I'll expand on some of the specific ways the government intervenes in the microeconomy in the next few slides. Externalities are spillover effects from economic activities that impact third parties not directly involved. Negative externalities like pollution, congestion, and unhealthy behaviors create social costs beyond private costs. Government intervention may be needed to correct these market failures and align private and social costs. Positive externalities from education, infrastructure, and R&D create societal benefits beyond private gains. Subsidies or incentives can encourage these positive externality generating activities. Other market failures like public goods, monopolies, information asymmetries, and the tragedy of the commons also justify government intervention to achieve efficient resource allocation. Public goods are resources that can be consumed by anyone without reducing their availability to others, like public parks or national defense. The freerider problem occurs when people benefit from public goods without contributing to their provision, since they can enjoy the benefits without paying. Governments often step in to address the freerider problem through taxation and regulation to fund and maintain public goods. Voluntary contributions and social norms can also encourage people to participate in providing public goods. Technological solutions like digital access controls can sometimes make public goods more excludable, reducing the freerider problem. Information asymmetries occur when one party in a transaction has more or better information than the other, leading to an imbalance of power. Adverse selection is a type of market failure where the party with less information ends up with a disproportionately high-risk pool, leading to higher costs. Strategies like signaling quality or screening potential partners can help mitigate information asymmetries and reduce adverse selection problems. This slide sets up the key concepts we'll be exploring: information asymmetries, adverse selection, and some approaches to addressing these challenges. Game theory is the study of strategic decision-making and how individuals and organizations make choices in situations where the outcomes depend on the actions of multiple players. We use mathematical models to predict how players will act and how those actions will affect the final outcomes. A key concept in game theory is the Nash equilibrium, which is a situation where each player is making the best decision given the choices of the other players. Understanding these strategic interactions and modeling decision-making is crucial for making informed choices in competitive environments. Behavioral economics is the study of how cognitive biases and heuristics lead people to make decisions that deviate from what would be considered rational. Cognitive biases are systematic errors in thinking that influence our judgments and decisions. Prospect theory shows that people feel the pain of losses more strongly than the pleasure of equivalent gains, leading to loss aversion. Framing effects demonstrate how the way a decision is presented can significantly impact the choices people make. Nudges and defaults are behavioral interventions that can steer people towards better decisions without restricting their freedom of choice. Microeconomic principles are foundational for understanding how businesses make key decisions. We'll explore 4 key applications of microeconomics in the business world. First, pricing strategies, analyzing demand elasticity to set optimal prices and maximize profits. Next, production decisions, evaluating production costs and marginal revenue to optimize output. Then, competitive analysis, examining market structures to develop effective competitive strategies. Finally, understanding the impact of government policy, how taxes, subsidies, and regulations affect markets. We've covered a lot of ground in our exploration of microeconomics, from supply and demand to market structures and consumer behavior. The key insights and principles we've learned will continue to be essential in understanding economic decision-making at the individual and market levels. These fundamental concepts provide a solid foundation for analyzing real-world economic phenomena and making informed choices. As we wrap up this section, I encourage you to reflect on how these microeconomic principles can be applied to your own personal and professional contexts. Remember, a strong grasp of microeconomics will empower you to navigate the complexities of the economic landscape more effectively.